Now, some of the most interesting stories I read regarding the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities I have seen on AsAmNews. The creation as well as the growth of that site is an interesting story in itself. Joining me right now is Ariel Neidermeier, a news blogger who can tell us more about the site and also has a personal story to tell that exemplifies what she and others at AsAmNews are trying to do. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Give us sort of an overview here. You know, I have watched that, from covering Bay Area news for a long time. I know some of the people involved in even the creation of the site. Give us sort of an overview in terms of what it's trying to do and also how you got involved.
Right, so AsAmNews is a news website committed to highlighting Asian American news, issues, and people that might otherwise be overlooked by mainstream media. And so the website editor is Randall Yip. He's a senior producer at KGO, ABC7 News in San Francisco. And I interned at ABC7 years ago when I was in journalism school. And so when I graduated, he sort of tapped me on the shoulder to write for the site. And I have been now for almost 2 years now. So.
Now, you probably, as a young person especially, have an interest in making sure that these kind of issues and this kind of community gets more high-profile attention, right?
Absolutely. As a Filipino-American committed person of color, I believe highly in what I write about. I tend to write mostly about Filipino-American issues, diversity issues, what it's like to be a multiracial individual, because I'm Filipino and also Caucasian. And I believe in it very much, and that's how I started writing about Typhoon Haiyan and covering the relief and all of those issues.
Which we're going to talk about in a little bit here. Right. My wife will also appreciate it, being Filipino as well as multi-ethnic as well.
Awesome. Awesome.
One of the things, though, that I like about the site is that it isn't just talking about what's happening and things that are going on with certain personalities, but also kind of attacks the stereotypes and some of the things that a lot of people maybe in mainstream media or in the general public might make assumptions about. It seems like you have the perspective of making sure that gets disrupted, right?
Yes, definitely. I've written stories about the model minority myth that Asian American students face. I've written stories about the bamboo ceiling in the professional world that Asian American professionals face. We really want to tackle those sort of uncomfortable racial questions that maybe, the mainstream media wouldn't necessarily write about. But yes, and then we also highlight Asian American people and celebrities and all the gossip that goes along with those public personalities.
Now, I have a teenage son, and you're a young person.
Yeah.
Give me an idea here in terms of for the young Asian American these days, what is it that you want to kind of make sure gets across to them? You know, I mean, they're going to be interested in certain things that young people are interested in. What's your perspective in terms of what you would like them to see?
For Asian Americans, you know, I grew up in the Bay Area, and I think we're lucky here. It's very diverse and very colorful and multicultural. So for Asian American young people, though, everywhere, I think it would be nice to see more of us in the media and see more of us making news. And that's sort of like the stint of the site, is to really be highlighting those people that are doing great things, Asian Americans that are doing great things, and
we're trying to do that on this show.
Right.
But also too, we did an interview with Steve Chen, the co-founder of YouTube, and we talked a little bit about the fact that a lot of young Asian people are following YouTube. And they kind of consider that one of the ways that they kind of see more Asians. Do you feel as though there's progress being made? Do you think that young people are starting to feel that they're more part of the overall, say, mainstream or not?
I think so, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think you're seeing a lot more women who are considered sort of sex symbols, who are multiracial, part Asian or Asian completely. I think you're seeing, a lot of high-profile, successful business people who are Asian American, and I think that's great.
And of course, it's easy to kind of focus in on maybe the success stories.
Right.
I mean, people. I remember that the movie Better Luck Tomorrow. It got a lot of controversy because it was showing very achievement-oriented young Asians, but who were also like kind of in a criminal life, and they felt like, well, we don't want to see anything that's not positive. Do you feel as though sort of a more well-rounded perspective on young people actually helps in the long run?
Definitely. I mean, you don't want to be relying on those stereotypes. Again, the model minority myth. I mean, it's good to talk about the Asian Americans who are not all really good at math, or you know, maybe taking part in some criminal activity. I think that's great. A well-rounded perspective, yes.
Just in terms of the entertainment value of it.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the trip you took to the Philippines and why you did what you did.
So I started blogging about the storm, Typhoon Haiyan, locally known as Typhoon Yolanda, before the storm even happened. It was about 3 days before it made landfall. And I covered it all through when it made landfall, the devastation, and then right up in, the relief efforts. And about a month after I started writing those stories, I really realized that I was more passionate about it than just writing about another news event. As a Filipino American, I was passionate about it. I have family in the Philippines. And so I decided to take 2 months and go over to Tacloban, which is a city in the central Philippines that sustained the worst devastation, and volunteer for 2 months.
And what did you do in terms of intertwining the reporting and the involvement?
Right, so I, personally, my strengths really lie in sort of writing and outreach, and I wanted to raise money, but I wanted to do it in the way that was like, donate to these organizations that are doing good works. I'm here, and I can really vouch for the work that's happening here. And so I volunteered with an organization called All Hands Volunteers. It's actually based in the United States, in Massachusetts. And what they do is they set up disaster relief projects all over the globe that help in a multitude of ways and are really volunteer-driven.
And you were able to give them publicity for that.
And I was able, and I raised the most money of any single volunteer at that time.
Ariel, thank you very much for being here and talking about that. And of course, the idea is to get more people engaged and involved, and that is certainly what that program does. And again, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Coming up, program.